people would not think I was French because I had a Singapore in a Vietnamese restaurant. They would not consider me as being French. They would consider me only as being Asian. A lot of my followers are sharing with me that the only approach they had to their culture was through me because their parents or their family was more silent. So I think that's the biggest hope that I have, or of the future of Asian-ness in the world in general, is to feel confident and to really assume that it doesn't smell weird. It just smells like fermented fish. Because I would hate for us to be shy and ashamed of this, which I felt before.
Why, hello there, food lovers, and welcome to The Hungry Immigrant. I'm your host, Abang Brian, a chef, food researcher, reality TV star, and a guy who believes that every dish tells a story. This is where we uncover the stories behind the flavors, the people shaping our culinary world, and the dishes that bring us all together. From hidden street stalls to Michelin-starred kitchens, we dive into taste, traditions, and untold stories of food across borders. So grab a seat, bring your appetite, and let's feast on culture, one bite at a time. Imagine winning MasterChef, only to feel ashamed to say it out loud. Today's episode takes us to Le Cordon Bleu Paris, where I sit down with the unapologetically bold and brilliant Khánh-Ly, chef, creative, and the first French-born Vietnamese woman to win MasterChef France. But this isn't just about winning. It's about what happens when your identity doesn't fit the mold. The perceived shame, the judgment, and the silence. We talk about what it means to build a restaurant when people don't see you as French, battling prices when your food is labeled as cheap, and the deep frustration of watching your culture get appropriated, then sold back to you. Khánh-Ly also opens up about burnout, starting over, and why fermented fish, pandan, and pride all belong on the table. This episode is raw, reflective, and laced with the bittersweet flavors of survival, defiance, and coming home to yourself. So let's dig in. Okay, so today we are in France. I have had the opportunity to come back to France. I say come back to France because it's been 20 years since I've been back to France. And for people who don't know, I actually studied in France for close to 7 years. I did finance and accounting, not cuisine, but now today I am in Le Cordon Bleu Paris. So I have to say a very big thank you to Le Cordon Bleu for allowing us to be shooting here. The reason why they allow me also because I teach at Le Cordon Bleu Malaysia, and it's very, very awesome to be back in the Paris campus. And yes, we are Le Cordon Bleu Paris is the original, but we are in Thailand, we are in Australia, we're in Malaysia. We are very close to you guys. So like, if you want to find out more about Le Cordon Bleu, please look us up online. But today, I am very, very lucky to be with someone who actually graduated from a competitor school of Paul Bocuse. But I'm so grateful that she agreed to do this interview in Le Cordon Bleu Paris. But I think this is another example of goodwill around the world. Because when I started this podcast, literally all I wanted to do was to preserve Asian food culture and heritage. And I was like, whenever I go out there, whenever I travel, I try to connect with people. And of course, in Paris, I only know accountants. I don't know any chefs. And of course, because I also graduated from MasterChef, I was like, wait, is there a MasterChef France? So today we have Khánh-Ly Huynh.
Yes, exactly.
Right, the winner of MasterChef France 2015, the last MasterChef France that was shot. And thank you very much. Bonjour, how are you?
Bonjour, thank you so much for having me, actually.
Let's share with the world, the global audience that is tuning in, a little bit about yourself, besides the fact that you won MasterChef.
So interestingly enough, I don't really mention that much that I won MasterChef because in France, when I were converted, I felt it was something, how to say, a bit shameful to share. Because in the food industry in France, it's all about, big chefs, star Michelin restaurants and everything. So it felt a bit awkward to introduce it. And I'm more proud about talking about the fact that I went to Paul Bocuse.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, it was a bit tough for me to mention it. I actually studied law school before we converted and decided to do MasterChef. After law school, I went into luxury watches. So I used to sell luxury watches for 3 years, which has nothing to do with whatever I ended up doing. And I won in 2015. I was 24. And afterwards, I joined as a business partner in a restaurant that's called The Hood.
Yeah.
It's actually a Singaporean-inspired restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And we opened a second location in 2021 called Nonette, and it's a banh mi shop.
Right.
So I'm the only one of my family to be French in the fact that I was born in France, and the rest of my family was all born in Vietnam.
All right.
But I'm the only one with a Vietnamese first name and not a French first name.
Okay, so you are
Yeah.
the only one born in France, but
Yeah.
the only one with the Vietnamese name.
Exactly.
I get you. Okay.
Because
Okay.
when they arrived here, they didn't know they had to change my name into a French name because they were just fresh of Vietnam.
Right.
So they named me after what the culture was, and they had to change their names into French ones. And so it was really tough for me to educate people about even pronouncing it when I was younger.
I think it's important to talk about this shame that you are talking about, and the shame that comes with the word MasterChef. And I think to let the global audience understand this, the truth is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the title MasterChef, right, is a title given to people in the culinary industry after years of experience. There are certain qualifications that you have to hold. It's a proper title, right? But both of us came from the show, the reality show called MasterChef. Right. At the beginning, I think the culinary world kind of embraced the show MasterChef as something that is making fun of the hard work and the career that is cuisine, right, and pastry. So I think that was a little bit of a sensitive thing. But I think at the end of the day, I have nothing against the MasterChef franchise, nor do I have anything against the people who think that way. Right. Everyone's allowed to think the way they do, but I think instead of focusing on our differences or what really qualifies as a MasterChef, is the fact that we all really love food, right? Instead of looking at our differences, why not look at what connects us, right? This is what people told me back in the days, right? When I came out of the show, they're like, oh, all of a sudden there's so many celebrity chefs. These are all play chefs, and that's why I did Cordon Bleu, to make sure that, if you're from Cordon Bleu or Paul Bocuse, everyone will be like, okay, we did our homework, we did our work. So let's go back to your journey in coming here, right? So your parents are from Vietnam, and I'm not sure, but I heard somewhere you grew up in an environment where you used to help your parents in the kitchen.
Yeah. I come from a very humble family, actually. My parents fled the country because they were against communism in Vietnam, and they arrived in 1990. So they were welcomed in a very catastrophic way. They had to seek for works and jobs, and they were quite old when they arrived in France as well. I had quite a very modest childhood. When I was younger, I think the dream of being Asian and the Asian-ness I feel is about being our own, entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur and being an owner as well is something that would have made them feel very proud. So they always dreamt of having their own thing, their own place, whatever it was. And my mom was quite a good cook. So they decided to take over a restaurant. I was, I think, 10, and I was going after school to go and help them in the kitchen and in waitering in the restaurant and everything. And after high school, I continued there. So I always grew up cooking, actually, and taking care of them and of my sister as well. And it was always part of me because they were cooking everything in-house. I think it's something of the modest family. We were never buying frozen stuff and stuff like that. It was really cooking everything from scratch.
That's beautiful. And it was a restaurant serving.
So interestingly enough, it was a Japanese owner. They took over this. So it was a Vietnamese and Japanese restaurant. So I used to cook Japanese when I was a kid as well.
I think that's probably where you get the precision.
Yeah, right. I think it's something that's really big in Asian culture. We really look up to Japanese culture, but it's so different from into the flavor profiles and the techniques and the variety of the texture as well. It's so different from Vietnamese cuisine. At first, it felt bland. Right. Because it's mostly shoyu and miso paste. Yeah. And I was like, where's the fermented fish? Yeah. So at the beginning, it was a bit hard for me to appreciate it. And it took a couple of years, actually.
And so, you start talking about fermented fish because your origins are Vietnamese and I'm from Malaysia, and Southeast Asians, we like stinky food, right?
Exactly.
I think so. We have that similarity in some sort of stinkiness, right? And so, tell me about the flavors that you grew up with besides the restaurant. Like, what were dishes that you remember? How has this influenced the way you cook now?
I think there was always a split between kind of my two personalities into my being in French school, being in the French system, and my being raised by my parents who are just fully Vietnamese in the Vietnamese way. I grew up with fermented soybean paste. I grew up with rice, and rice was the cereal we were eating in the house. So I actually discovered French cuisine quite late on, when I started having more friendships and more French, more like a French environment. So I think I grew up really in Vietnamese, but like a, how to say, like a Vietnamese, but within France kind of culture.
For people who don't know what's Vietnamese, what is Vietnamese?
Our main condiment would be fish sauce, actually, and of course soy sauce. It's a lot of texture. I think the biggest, how to say, difference with Vietnamese cuisine that you would have with French cuisine is the bitterness. There's no bitterness in French cuisine, and in Western cultures in general, we don't understand it because it would be a sign of it being burnt. So in the palate, when you describe bitterness, it's something you associate with something negative. When in Vietnam, it's something that it's to clean and purge your body, actually. It's like, you know the yin and the yang when you eat and that kind of stuff. So the bitterness would kind of be like the umami of the body, let's say, when everything will be at peace.
Yeah, I remember this very well. Also, when I connect it to my culture and the way I grew up is, when you have herbal mix, it's bitter for your body and it's supposed to be good for your body. And like one thing that reminds me a lot is bitter God. Anything that's bitter, your parents will say, "Hey, that's good for your body," right? And then if you think about it, they'll say things like, "Oh, even medication."
Exactly.
Originally, now they make medication sweet, right?
Yeah.
But originally it's bitter, right?
Yeah.
And I always believe like, if you don't taste bitter, you not taste the sweetness in life. Wow, so deep, so deep. Okay, so this is a big question for me. One of the reasons I do this show is because I don't want people to put Asian cuisine as one.
Yes.
Even then, now let's focus on Southeast Asian cuisine. It's not one, right? But let's take it a step further. Let me ask you, between Thai and Vietnamese food, what is the difference?
Oh, so I'm going to Thailand, actually. I will be able to answer more after this. But, I think it's more, there's a bigger Cham Indian influence in Thailand that we don't have so much in Vietnam. There's a connection to spice that's very different from Vietnam. In Vietnam, we rotate within an amount of 15 to 25 spices, but we'd never go into, like, for example, cumin. Right. Or fennel or that kind of stuff. We use it within a mix, but it will never be empowering. I would compare the Thai of Southeast Asia with the Uyghurs of China, in the way that they use the spice and the way they bloom things, and the coconut use as well. Coconut in Vietnam, we use it very parsimoniously, like very small amounts, because it's quite fatty. Yeah. And we don't appreciate as much coconut milk as we would in Thai. Like, we don't use coconut oil, for example, that much.
That is true.
Let's say. But I would say there's so many similarities in the fish sauce and the herbs that I'm looking forward to discover the food in Thailand, because it's the one that I feel the closest to in terms of panache and dynamic.
And I feel that it's also the way geographically where we are positioned. So like the spices from India are originally where they come from, I believe so. And then the spice route, and then like back in the days where they go through the Straits of Malacca. And I feel like when the description of the Vietnamese food is more subtle on the palate, and then you have the Thai, and when you go to Malaysia, because Thailand is next to Malaysia. Have you been to Malaysia?
No, not yet.
Okay, if you go to Malaysia, you understand it more. Like what you're describing is like if Malaysian food met Vietnamese food, the compromise would be Thai food. Okay. And I think it's kind of that geographically. Because like what you're describing, we are heavy on coconut milk. And I think that is very interesting, because like to see that perspective geographically and then the way people moved, I think it's very interesting, and I think you bring up a very good point there. But let me ask you to just reflect back on your childhood. What is that one dish that hey, you know what? This is Khánh-Ly. Or on your worst days.
The one that I would make?
You will make and you will eat. Like, I have something that I eat, for example. It's not nasi lemak. And I think whenever I say Malaysian food, it's nasi lemak all the time. Actually, the first time I left, when I came to France, there is, we like anchovies. right? Like
Yeah.
fishy
Ikan
taste.
bilis,
Ikan
right?
bilis, yeah. So we have ikan bilis and we have this bun that has sambal inside with ikan bilis. It's like a very pedestrian thing, and they
Really?
even make it in like kids would buy it in a packet from the from anywhere, right? Even the petrol station, you know. It's a very pedestrian, like not haute cuisine, it's not pastry, it's just bun with sambal in it. It's very, very but every time I go back to Malaysia, that's the first thing I'll eat. And if I eat that, it triggers memories for me. But it's so simple.
I see.
What is that dish for you? A special thank you to Le Cordon Bleu Paris for making this conversation possible. As a place where food, history, and innovation come together, they've been instrumental in supporting storytellers like us who believe that food is never just food. It's culture, it's memory, and it's identity. Merci infiniment. So
it's not a dish that I used to make when I was a kid because I think it took me a lot of years to be able to cook Vietnamese food. I felt it felt hard to do it because my mother could only do it. I think I associated the fact of cooking Vietnamese so close to my mother being the matriarch and being the one making it that I couldn't even approach and dare to approach. It felt very intimidating to make it. But it's the dish that I used to love eating and I would always be my all-time favorite in Vietnamese food is Bánh cuốn. It's an heritage from Chinese culture, actually. It's a rolled steamed crepe, I think. There's something that exists in...
it's transparent.
Yes, and it's made with rice and tapioca and glutinous rice flour. And it's just steamed on a very thin layer and it's stuffed with minced pork and black air mushroom and mam, and we serve it with lots of coriander and chalo, which is some sort of Vietnamese charcuterie. Yeah. It's a dish that is very famous in the north of Vietnam, in Hanoi, and it's very hard to make. It's very delicate, but the flavors are quite straightforward. It's basically...
It's very delicate, I feel.
The texture, yeah. And there's a lot of similar dish that I found in Singapore, for example, and in Hong Kong. And it's funny because I have no pride into my culture. Of course I do, but I'm not I'm not sassy about it, you know? Right, I'm not nasty about, oh, my food is better. Yeah. But it's the only dish that I would try other versions of it and I would say, no, the Vietnamese version is better. It's the only one that I would really say, we are the best on this one.
For Malaysians who are listening, or Singaporeans, it's called Chi Chong Fan.
Yes.
It's Chi Chong Fan. And I think we have a version in Kelantan as well, but it's not stuffed, it's called Laksam. But basically, it's because also it boiled down to the Asian culture in Southeast Asia. Asian culture in general, we use a lot of rice. So we use rice flour a lot to make this really... it's a texture of noodles, like kway teow. It is the same ingredients almost as kway teow, and then you stuff it. Your parents are from Vietnam, you grew up in France, you went to French cooking school, your parents had a Japanese and Vietnamese influence restaurant. How do you see Asian food today in the world?
I have to say the activity in the business part in France, because I'm more familiar with the Parisian scene, of course. But I feel like there's a worldwide movement into reaching more for Asian-ness, I'd say. I don't know the story of the Asian cuisine in the US, but I think it's quite similar to the French one. You know, there was large waves of immigrations of Southeast Asian countries after Indochina, of course, in France, and a lot of families had to survive and to feed their families. So a lot of restaurants opened, but they had to adapt so hard to the French culture. The France welcomed so many different diasporas from all over the world that it was hard on French culture, because in France, we are really proud. I'm including myself because I'm part French, but there's a big pride around French culture, and even like a very nationalist movement around the specialties, you know, and what we have in France. So when they welcomed diasporas from all over, Northern Africa and Southeast Asia, it was a bit tough for all those families to create a whole culture, and everybody ended up being more staying together. We had to find togetherness because you could feel that it was hard to be part of the French culture. Right. And I felt that as well as a French Vietnamese person. I really felt racism. I felt all those moments in my life when I could tell my family was like foreigner. It was a hard time as well. But I feel now that people are more willing to understand, and also our generation is more willing to educate people. Right. When I opened my first restaurant in 2015, I realized it was really tough to educate people on the food. It was really a coffee shop at the beginning, super simple stuff, nothing Asian apart from pandan, actually. Okay.
You get pandan here?
Yeah, we make our own extract actually since 2015.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so it was hard because nobody knew what pandan was in 2015.
Right.
And I had to explain it was not matcha and it was not pistachio.
Yeah.
And I had to explain the flavor. So I think it took us 7 years to really get pandan on the picture because we were the first ones to do it apart from the Chinese, Chinatown.
Yeah.
We were the first ones to do it in a very cool neighborhood, with yapais, young kid, like young dynamic people going there. So to put it really on the map and make it cool was tough because at the beginning everybody was like, "This is so green. Why? Why am I eating
I don't know
this?"
what you all have against pandan. The way I describe it is the Asian vanilla.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say to people.
Right.
And then they understand. But the look. In France, it was so hard. But I think also in France, I don't know if you felt it when you were here, but there's such a pride into the dairy, the butter, the charcuterie, the wine, which is amazing. And I did this training, of course, to know about all that. Yeah. But it's part as well of the culture of France to have different types of ethnicities. And I think that was the hardest part because people will not think I was French because I had a Singaporean and a Vietnamese restaurant. They would not consider me as being French. They would consider me only as being Asian. And so when even the way that I decorated the shops and everything, the way that the layout and the design, they would think I was a white man. So that was
or woman.
But the association was a bit difficult for me. So the way that I perceived my culture was really I embraced my Asian-ness very fast, and now I can tell other people are, and a lot of people that are mixed race, like French Vietnamese or French Asian or American Asian. I think we come from a generation with so much trauma as well that we have to heal. And I can tell a lot of my followers, for example, are sharing with me that the only approach they had to their culture was through me because their parents or their family was more silent. So I think that's the biggest hope that I have or of the future of Asian-ness in the world in general is to feel confident and to really assume that it doesn't smell weird. It just smells like fermented fish. Because I would hate for us to be shy and ashamed of this, which I felt before.
I think people who are listening to you who are second generation immigrants, first generation immigrants, I think like myself also, I think the world has changed a lot. I was here 20 years ago. It was very different. You are right. I think every country starts off with the position that they're in. And I think the French pride in their culture and their cuisine is something that is well known all around the world, right? So for something that is different to come in is obviously going to be challenging. But I cannot speak for French people because I'm not French, but I do teach at a French cooking school. I can see the way that they are now embracing Asian flavors and, like you said, Asian-ness. But I think people have felt that way before in the past. Asian immigrants all around the world have felt shame for where they come from. And I think it's shifting because of people like you. It's because of people like you, and what I'm trying to do is to tell people like, hey, it doesn't stink. And even if it stinks, you know what? It stinks, but we say it in a different way, right? Like we love it. It stinks. It's stinky, That's the reason why we have to continue to do the work that we do, because we represent and speak for a lot of people who cannot speak for themselves. Which I don't blame certain generations, especially being Asians like your parents or your followers' parents who are a bit more quiet, because that's how we Asian people are in general. We are traditionally polite. I'm not saying other cultures are not polite, but right? Don't you think so? Yeah. But yeah, I think we need to say that for these people, but also for the generations who now are third, fourth, fifth generations who no longer have that connection with their roots. I think we need to continue talking about these roots so that it does not get misplaced. I think the France 20 years ago and the France today is different. Yeah, I do hope so, and I think that's culture in essence. It's always evolving. I feel different when I come back this time. I really do, because I came back since 20 years ago. I came back 10 years ago. That was a very different time also. 10 years ago, it was a different.
Yeah, it was very different.
But enough of me. Let's talk more about, like you said, embracing your Asian-ness, right? For you, what is one thing that you feel should not be forgotten about Vietnamese cuisine?
I would just speak about Vietnamese cuisine is that there was no Vietnamese cooking school, and there's no transcriptions, there's no books. It's one of these cultures when it's an auntie, as you say, oh, this, that. How can I remember those pinches, and those pinches in the way that they make the food is so different. So because cooking was never brought to this level of professionalism, and it was never considered as something glamorous or as something so huge as it is in France, I think it's so hard to keep it as part of our culture, because also everybody now is diluting it, which is, I have nothing against dilution of the culture in a certain way, and if it's legitimate, but to an extent it's damaging to our culture. For example, I'm not a big fan of the fusion-ness of the food, which I did before. I used to mix my roots, and of course I do that because it's part of me. I'm part Vietnamese and I'm part French, so of course I have to say I mix and match. But I will not, let's say, make like a better version of the pho and claim it's better because it's a more modern version. Right. I would not do that claim. I would just make my own version, but will not compare the quality, which I would say it's something that I hate about fusion, when it's claimed to be better than the authentic and traditional version. This is what I hate about fusion, because it's two different interpretations, let's say. Right. What I would say I would want to keep in Vietnamese cuisine is really the fermentation, the probiotics, and the fact that Vietnamese food is really about health, more than, and of course about taste, but it's all around the body as well. And there's a way of eating it. For example, we always finish the meal. It's a bit the Escoffier vision of the food. Escoffier, there's a long menu, and there's, like I say, same thing. There's a long menu and there's a path to follow to find the perfect feeling at the end of the meal. And in Vietnam, we have the same way of perceiving food, but let's say it's more around feeling good at the end of your meal and not feeling bloated and wanted to die, which is the fact in a lot of star Michelin restaurants I did in France, which were amazing. But at the end, you don't feel good. You are heavy. You had so much butter and so much cream, which I love, but not at this point. And it happens a lot in France. In Vietnam, there's the point of ending up the meal and feeling good. I love this perception of food, actually.
So like the lightness, the balance.
Exactly. And the fact that, it's a really dynamic experience in the way that you eat, because it's savory, it's acidic, it's warm, it's bitter, it's sweet. And let's say if you were looking at a music sheet, the music of Vietnam has a lot of fluctuances. And the music in France, in the very traditional, standard culinary experience, it's very flat.
Wow.
It's horrible what I'm saying. I'm so mean.
No, but it's an opinion, right? And I think opinions are welcome. And I think that this is one thing I enjoy about doing this show, because like whenever I talk to different people, I hear different things, but I like to find similarities. One of the episodes that aired, I'm trying my best to collect all the MasterChefs from all around the world. I talked to someone from MasterChef India, and she was talking about the Ayurvedic approach to food. Eating is a form of nourishment to nourish your body, and there's whole, like, even in the Chinese culture, the yin and the yang, the balance. And what you're saying is very, very interesting, because I believe truly in it. I thought I was trying to heal my father's disease, but I was trying to heal myself and the experience that we're going through, right? So I think that food nourishes the body, the feeling that you have, but also the soul and your mind, right? It's just beyond that, right? But now I'm crying as usual. Every time, all my shows, I cry. You talked a little bit about fusionness, right? And you hate it. What about fusionness that you don't like? Or you don't allow it at all?
I'm a chef, for example, that I would have a menu. If I have a set menu, it will be from very different influences. But I will, as you say, I will not claim it to be better. I don't mind at all when you have different inspirations and different instincts, and you went on this trip and you love this dish and you would try to recreate it. But let's say claiming it to be the essence of the original dish, that I have a problem with. I have a very clear example.
Okay.
And there was a moment in Paris when a lot of establishment opened, and they were Asian influenced, but none of the people of the team, neither on the creation and the founders team and on the people on the ground, were being Asian, nor did they have Asian experience or Asian knowledge of it.
Okay.
And they were known to be the best Asian restaurant in Paris.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they shot a video claiming it was better than in Vietnam. So that I have a problem with. But it's a very specific example of someone appropriating culture.
Right.
I think it's not the fusion, to be more exact, it's not about the fusion that I care about. It's more appropriation. Yeah. It's more that us as, I mean, I would talk about just for me, of course, but as a person of color, it's already hard to exist and to be part of a system and not feel marginalized. So the only thing that I would have for me that would make me different, please do not take it away from me. Because it felt as a business owner of an Asian restaurant there for 10 years and being one of the first establishment to really try to make something, how to say, interesting for people on the scene and talking unapologetically about being Asian and using French techniques into Asian flavors and using French ingredients of quality and always being the one, oh, this is an Asian restaurant because I'm Asian, and not feeling acknowledged for it. It really felt bad to feel like this.
Actually, my memory of France, 20 years ago, guys, they only had traiteur asiatique. Like, you don't have Asian restaurants, and you had like buffets.
Yes.
All you can eat kind of thing, right? We didn't have cafes or restaurants, which you guys have now. And
there's no middle range actually in France of
Correct.
Asian food. It's either very cheap and everybody's scared of MSG, or it's either very high level, Imperial Treasure and Peking duck. But it's not reflecting the reality of Asian culture overall. Not even Asian food. It's not reflecting what Asian culture has to offer.
Because there's so many ranges of Asian food. And do you believe that Asian food should be elevated more? Is it elevated enough?
It's interesting because I don't think it's about the elevation of Asian food. I think it's more about the valorization and what is the value we put behind Asian food.
Girl is a lawyer. Girl is a lawyer. But yeah, I agree with you. Before we wrap up, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to Le Cordon Bleu Paris for their support. It's institutions like theirs that not only teach the art of cuisine, but also inspire conversations about deeper meaning behind the meals we share. Thank you for helping us keep these stories alive. Merci infiniment.
For example, I had a lot of fights with people, and it's crazy because I had to justify myself so much about my pricing. When I designed the second restaurant, the hardest part was not to do the restaurant because
there's no net, right?
Yeah, it's no net. I've designed like 2 locations before. I've done this for 10 years. I know my stuff now. I mean, and it's what I love to do. But when I was in front of the menu and I had to price it down, even though there are codes about pricing, my ×3, ×4, ×5, ×10, I couldn't price it because I had to align to the market, and the market of Bánh in France was only very cheap markets or expensive. And I knew that people would tell me, why is it so expensive? It's a sandwich. Because they would not understand how much work is that in a banh mi. When you make your own charcuterie, you make your own cured meats, it's so much work. And we make as well, sourdough, donut dough. It's a lot of work in whatever we make. And for the first year when we opened, I had to explain to every single person why was my pricing, because this ingredient was coming from this farmer in this region. And I chose all my products very carefully because I believe being in France, I have to use the most quality I can find here. And I think it was a really tough time because I thought I could be enough just serving a really good product, really good marketing and really good image, but it was not enough for people. They had to realize, they had to understand that I was valued as much as another person that was not Asian.
Wow. Do you feel that there are certain Asian cuisine that has more value?
Of course. I mean, in Japanese food is always, I mean, I think there's an Ali Wong show that talks about it as well and comparing Jungle Asia and, Asia.
We is Jungle Asia.
Exactly. It's not a problem for people to be paying 300 euro for a set for a Japanese restaurant in France, but nobody would be ever able to do that for a Vietnamese restaurant, even though the technicality can be even bigger.
It's the perception, right?
Exactly. I think it's really like the legacy of colonialism, because France used to colonize all Indochina.
Yeah.
So there's the subsistence of it, and it doesn't feel. I mean, I don't think about it every day, but I can feel the weight on the way that I have to behave as an entrepreneur.
Wow. But that's the thing that is sad sometimes, that I do acknowledge the fight of all immigrants who feel the effects of colonialism and whatever not. But I like to find joy in things. And like the banh mi, for example, because we're talking about banh mi, right? This is how I explain history to children. And I say, this is the wonder of, history. You get to understand where it comes from. It should be celebrated, right? Because like the baguette is something that is very French, right? And because of history, it has arrived in Vietnam. And then even the pâté, it's pâté, but it's French pâté, but it's not really pâté. You know, they make it differently in Vietnam and in Vietnam cuisine. And even the Vietnam baguette is different, right? If you go into the technicality of it, the banh mi baguette is different for me. And you cannot use a French baguette for banh mi because it has to have that texture to absorb some of the, I like it with pickled carrots, right?
Yeah.
So there's some sort of liquid from the pickled carrots that, that needs to be absorbed. But like a good French baguette for me should I always say, in winter, when you eat a sandwich, it cuts your mouth a little bit because it's so crusty.
Exactly.
Right? So you need a little bit of that mie. In French, we say the mie, the doughy, the doughy part of bread, right? To absorb that flavors. I love the way you have brought it up because I never expected you to be so sassy. You're so sassy. You're so vocal about about the plight of immigrants, right? I'm sorry, but we should be speaking about it as the way our food is, right? But yeah, so those were the challenges that you faced.
Of course, product development was you mentioned the
ingredients. How about the ingredients?
That was tough because the bread was the biggest part of my journey.
Did you make your own bread or?
I wanted to at the beginning. So the project in the beginning for Nanette was to open an Asian bakery. It was a project I had in mind since 2018 because I always believed in Asian bakeries. There's none in France, not as much. There's a lot of Japanese bakeries and a lot of in Chinatown. But when you start being a professional chef, you're like, I cannot like this baked good anymore because it's not as good as it could be when we are in France.
Yeah.
So when you have the knowledge of, how good it can be, that's it. This is all I wanted, is to make a better version that's more adapted with the products we have. Because of course, these first restaurants that open in France, they use very basic ingredients, just a matter of cost, because it needs to be sold cheap. So you have to have cheaper ingredients. That makes sense. But I was in a better neighborhood, so I could allow myself to have better ingredients. So the challenge was to find the perfect balance into being accessible for non-Asians and being not too expensive for Asians. Because then all the Asians were like, dude, it's too expensive.
Correct.
Which makes sense because I would realize that they're like, yeah, my mother can do it better. So why would I pay this price? So it's funny because at the beginning, a lot of French Asians hated my dish.
Yeah.
So I felt really like, okay, there's no answer. It's always bad. Yeah. But in the end, Vietnamese from Vietnam loves Nanette. So that just makes me happy. And my mom, so that I've won everything basically.
Right. Oh, just one last question,
Yes,
because we are running out of time, and of course, this is only my first time. I will be back soon. When I come back, obviously, I'm going to invite you again because I love to extend an invitation to all my guests who I feel can contribute even more. I think we only touched the surface. But one thing I wanted to ask you quickly was current affairs. I'm a stalker. So I kind of know you were born in 1991. I knew you grew up in a restaurant environment. And I know that you stand very proudly as a person of color. And one of the things you also said was your mental health, that you have taken recently a step back from certain things for your mental health. Would you be comfortable sharing about it?
So I did this for 9 years. And when I won, I was 24. And I think what I would say about MasterChef, it was a great experience, of course, but I had no guidance afterwards. And I really just had reconverted into the food industry. So when I started my cooking degree, I was 23. Wow. And I think when you are in this industry so fast, so quick, with no guidance, my family couldn't help me. Of course, we're not living in the same city. It took me a while to realize that I was killing myself slowly because it was really a path of 9 years working nonstop. And I realized I was really unhealthy and unhappy. And because after I reached 30, I was like, wow, something happened and I felt different. I really felt that I couldn't go to work anymore. And my companies were not going the way that I wanted them to go. So I decided to leave operations and to sell my shares and to start again in content creation and in more smaller private chefing, events. But I think when you are a chef, most people think you're just cooking, but I think when you're a chef and entrepreneur, you're a creator, you're creative. And there's so many things you can do when you own a company, and it's just such a wide range of competence and skills. And now it got me to become a art director as well. It got me to become a brand manager because now I'm really good at that as well. And cooking was my way of introducing and educating about my culture, but we all do that as Asians. Oh, try this, try this.
Yeah.
This is the way we connect with people.
Exactly. Come eat first.
Exactly. This is the way we welcome into our culture.
Yeah.
And I feel like now I need to be louder in another way. And I think I've reached my limit into educating people through my food, and I need to share more and about what it is really to be Asian.
Okay, so for me, what it is about to be Asian, one of the things that I represent myself with is something that is very famous in Malaysia called the Sambal. So now we'll go to a segment that we call the Sambal Survey. Sambal is, I would say, like a chili chutney, like a condiment that goes with a lot of different things in Malaysia. And I think one of the things that's most Malaysian is sambal. I believe that I cook very good sambal. So I travel the world with 3 different sambals. One made by me, one made by a nasi lemak chain, so it's industrialized, and one made by another influencer, one of the most famous influencers in Malaysia now. So basically, these are the 3 sambals, and I go around asking people which one they prefer. And let's see whether you would prefer my sambal or which sambal that you prefer. And obviously, because I know by just looking which sambal is mine, I'm going to be really partial. You're going to taste it together. You're just going to put some on mine. And I'm going to blindfold myself, and then we're going to taste it. And just tell me what you're tasting, which one you like. We've prepared some water, and let's go. Oh, I know this one. I know this one. I know this one.
A lot of tomato on this one. I like the level of spice. I think there's some sort of crab or some sort of shrimp. It's very sweet, actually. But I don't know if it's sweet because of the crustaceans, or I don't know if it's sweet because of the gula melaka.
This person, she knows gula melaka is in it. I think in Malaysia, most of it we call it gula melaka. If not, it's palm sugar from some other countries also have palm sugar. Okay, now I'm confused. Which one is mine? This one is not bad.
Very different. Very sweet also.
This was very sweet. But the first one has more like umami, I feel.
Yeah, more crustaceous.
More like the crustacean that you're talking about. I think it's either dried shrimp or... Yeah.
Sorry, it's hard to look at you with this mask on. I mean, it's very cute. Okay. This one
Last
has more
one. This one's
vegetables.
more?
Yeah. It's less umami, as you say. Okay.
The last one.
Yeah. The last one has bits of shrimp, but it's really hard to do a taste actually on this because it's really accumulating the flavors.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be really impartial on this one because I think the first one is the one when my palate was the cleanest.
Yeah.
I think I like the texture of the first one. I like the taste of the last one and the first one. I don't like the middle one.
Okay. So, to find out whether Khánh-Ly actually chose mine, please check out the video on Spotify or on YouTube. We will only reveal the answer then. Before we go, maybe Khánh-Ly, you would like to share with our audience how they can further connect with you, what's next for you, and yeah.
Okay. Of course, you can follow me on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube at Chef Limalaya, ChefLyMalaya. It's very long.
So anyways, okay, follow you on your Instagram and TikTok.
And YouTube as well. Next is just...
You're going to be a lot of video and content.
Yes, content, yeah. Educating about cooking and stuff.
And you are doing this all by yourself?
Yeah, it's really hard.
But yeah, we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
I really do hope to get a chance to come and see you again in Paris. Or if you come to Washington, D.C., please look me up. Or if you go to Malaysia, if you need any reference or recommendations, please reach out. And thank you so much. I would like to say, no matter what we said about MasterChef, the franchise has brought us together. I think I want to say congratulations to MasterChef. And also thank you very much to Le Cordon Bleu Paris for allowing us to be in the school to record this session, and of course for the wonderful work that Le Cordon Bleu Paris is doing in the world. And so if you want to find out more about Le Cordon Bleu, please check out their website and their social media. I think each country and each outlet have their own Instagram, so I'm not going to list all of them, because also I would like to say thank you to the school in Lyon, the Institute of Paul Bocuse, for helping this wonderful person become who she is. And yeah, I think before I end, as usual, I would like to invite everyone to simply keep their plates adventurous and their hearts open. This has been another episode of The Hungry Immigrant. My name is Abang Brian. Terima kasih and thank you for joining us on another culinary journey. Just by tuning in, you're already helping us to keep our stories, our flavors, and our heritage alive. But the reality is, our culture is fast disappearing. And when we lose it, we lose a part of who we are. So if this episode resonated with you, I have just one small favor to ask. Hit that subscribe button and share this show. Talk about it with your friends, your family, or anyone who loves food, culture, and all the stories that bring us together. Let's keep these traditions alive, not just in history, but in our kitchens, our conversations, and our hearts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Hungry Immigrant and my personal account at Abang Brian for behind-the-scene moments and extra bites from each episode. I'm Abang Brian, reminding you to always keep your plates adventurous and your hearts open.